Welcome to the Vault Studios NFL podcast, an Australian twist on all things NFL. The boys are cracking into a nice cold beer from Burnley Brewing. Let's join them.
Hello, everybody. We are back. The Vault Studio Boys NFL show. I'm JA, and I'm joined, as always, by my very dapper-looking friend today, Richie. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Good. I was going to try and play the old, how have you been? I've had a couple of weeks off from the podcast, but the fact that we talk every single day and basically see each other every single day, I was like, it's just going to sound so fake. Like,
yeah, I mean, we know what's going on, so there's no need to put it on the podcast.
Yeah, no. So we had a bit of a couple of weeks off, absolutely nothing going on in the NFL. So we decided, you know what, instead of trying to force a show that is going to just be killing time, we thought we'd have a couple of weeks off, have a relax, and get back into it. And now we're back in. We're getting into our team previews. So, Richie, that means we are only 9 weeks away from the NFL season because we've got 8 weeks of team preview shows, and then we go into our prediction extravaganza, and then it's the first game. So I don't know if that gets you excited, but it certainly gets me excited. I've been watching the fucking NBA playoffs lately. I'm so needing sport.
They talked about July is the last month without an NFL game. So,
yep. Are they doing
times.
preseason though? Who knows if they'll do full preseason?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do a full preseason or not, but they're certainly slated to happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, let's talk some big preseason news. And, one of the biggest things that happens in the preseason, Richie, is obviously Hard Knocks, and we all get around it. And I am now a terrified Dallas Cowboys fan because the Dallas Cowboys have been selected to star in Hard Knocks. I bet the NFL and whoever produces Hard Knocks is absolutely loving this because they're about to make a killing, because whether you love or hate the Dallas Cowboys, you will tune in for both reasons here, either to mock them or to enjoy them. And I'm scared. This is not good. This is not what the Cowboys need, Richie. Going off a terrible season last year with tons of injuries on a coach who I think is, quite frankly, shithouse. I don't think this is a good move. I really don't. As a team, I don't think it's a good move.
It'll be interesting. But there's only ever so many teams they can choose from. They put all these rules around Hard Knocks. If you made the playoffs, you can't be selected, or you're allowed to say no, I should say. And first-year head coaches, teams are allowed to say no, and there's a whole bunch of rules. And usually in the end, it only comes down to about 5 odd clubs who the NFL can force. Unless you want to volunteer, of course. So, look, maybe it gives you what you want, Jay. You might have to write another year off, but you might have to get rid of your coach. So, who knows? It could be good for you.
I think back and the All or Nothing series on Amazon. Terrific series. They've done the Arizona one was outstanding. Then I believe it was the Rams had one where Jeff Fisher got fired halfway through. Wasn't as good. And then the Dallas Cowboys one came along. And I thought, you beauty, this is going to be great. I can't wait to watch this. I got 2 episodes in, Richie, and I was that sick and tired of hearing Dallas Cowboys talk about how good the Dallas Cowboys were. And I'm a fan. I could not handle it. It was also hard because I'd known how that's obviously they record it after the season, they release it. So what's happened. And we weren't very good that year. So it's really hard to sit there hearing them hype themselves up all preseason and knowing that they're going to go 6-10. You're like, you guys are morons. So hindsight kind of ruined that one for me. But I've liked the others, but I didn't like the LA one because I knew Jeff Fisher was going to get fired. It was interesting to see it, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun.
Have you watched the Eagles one?
Yes, I did watch the Eagles one. Eagles one was good. I didn't mind the Eagles, except for my, excessive hatred of the Philadelphia Eagles and everything they do. It was good. It was good. So Hard Knocks is always good. I think it's even better if it's your team. I think it's going to be entertaining for Dallas Cowboys fans. I think it's going to be entertaining for everyone because if the Cowboys suck, everyone's going to have a field day with it about Hard Knocks because the Cowboys are going to be talking about Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. That's all they'll talk about. So it adds a lot of pressure, but I'm excited for some storylines, some fun storylines. Prescott coming back from injury. It's going to be interesting to see that develop and how it works. Ezekiel Elliott, he's always an interesting character, how he's handling, a disappointing season last year. The expectations on him, you've got guys like Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, CD Lamb, like that relationship there, the offensive line stuff, obviously Zach Martin, Tyrone Smith, those sorts of guys, again, coming back from injuries. I'm excited to see that sort of stuff. So, it's never bad when your football team gets some extra coverage, but it's not a great sign for your season. Not many teams that do hard knocks end up going and dominating. So, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll be the first. Who knows?
Because they can't choose playoff teams. You don't think they'd rather do the Chiefs?
Oh,
of course they would, but the Chiefs can say no.
Yeah. So interesting. Let's move on to a playoff team from last year, the Washington football team. Fined $10 million after they were investigated into team culture. I won't get into all of it, but basically they were fined $10 million because they've run a really, really poor culture for the last decade or longer, according to the report. Some interesting things in there. This week, the CEO's wife got named co-CEO of the team. Just a massive PR move. Well done. As if your wife's not even going to say in what's going on anyway. But yeah, they're an odd organization, Washington. They're very strange, sticking to the Redskins name for such a long time, which was, some people say it's offensive. Some people say it's not. I'm not from America, so I don't get it. I'm glad they changed it because I think if it offends anyone, it's probably not a good thing. And there was enough people offended, I think, to change it. But they butted heads on that for years, wouldn't change it. Then they change it to Washington football team for a year. And now they're apparently going to leave it as Washington football team because they made the playoffs with 7 wins. Like, let's get up and about. I just think, it's just a kind of a standard Washington thing. They're just not a good organization. They kind of haven't been for a very, very long time.
No, all Daniel Snyder's done is made his wife the co-CEO. Just put a female name on it because all of their culture issues and the reason they were fined $10,000 is basically how they treat women. So it's all a PR move. $10 million. I mean, Snyder will find that in the top drawer. Like whatever. This is a nothing move. It really comes at the end of the day. This will come down to if they want to change it, it will change. And if they don't, things aren't going to change. It's as simple as that. The fine, this is nothing. Quarterbacks get paid double this a year plus. So, spare me.
They're paying Ryan Fitzpatrick double that. So
yeah, exactly. As I said, this is a complete nothing move.
Yeah, it's a, hey, we care enough to fine them, and we know this isn't going to affect them. If it was $100 million, now that's a different story. That's a bit of a dent in his paycheck, but Absolutely. Maybe it's kind of an initial warning. I'm sure they'll be on the radar now for this sort of stuff. But I hated the move of promoting his wife. Like I said, it's just a PR. Like they think people are dumb. That's what do they honestly think? Oh, you know what? I'll just make my wife the co-CEO, and that'll get all the feminists off our back. Mate, that doesn't just wipe out decades of abuse. It blows my mind. It blows my mind how people in such high positions, and I always go back to Robert Mays when he says, sometimes people in these jobs just aren't meant to be in these jobs, and they are. And you have to understand that there's incompetence in every level of the world, sport, high-end business, all that sort of stuff. There's incompetence everywhere, and sometimes in the NFL it's there too. So, as you said, Richie, you nailed it. If they want to change it, they can change it. Maybe his wife being in the building starts to change that culture more, but I find it hard to believe she wasn't a part of it anyway. She wasn't around anyway. So we'll see how it goes. I said, I've got no soft spots for Washington. Again, they're a pretty lousy organization, have been for a long time. Now we talk about money and life-changing money. Let's talk about Ryan Ramczyk of the New Orleans Saints, the all-pro right tackle, signs a 5-year, $96 million extension. Very well deserved. One of the best tackles in football by far. He's had an outstanding 4 years in the NFL. I think he was about to go into his 5th-year option for the Saints, but instead they lock him down to a long-term deal. And my opinion on offensive lineman, Richie, if you've got a top guy, you do not let him leave your building. It's as simple as that. You pay him whatever the market dictates. You go a little bit more and you pay him simply every single time. I can remember the Cowboys. They signed Tyrone Smith 6 years ago, I think it was, and everyone thought, wow, what a ridiculous contract. That's about one of the best contracts in the NFL right now. It was an 8-year deal. They signed Lyle Collins 2 years ago. Again, everyone thought, wow, that's a ridiculous contract. Trent Williams is earning more than that now. He got paid more. So you just keep going with the market. I think offensive and defensive linemen, you just don't let them leave your building. If they're in that top tier, you can't let them leave. Guys like Aaron Donald, Ryan Ramczyk, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, Marshall Yander, those sorts of elite level guys, can't let them leave the building because you can't find them. You can't just go to the draft and like a running back, you just go pick a running back in the second round and maybe one in the fourth, and one of them gives you the production you need. Offensive line's not like that. Those elite guys aren't found ever.
Yeah. Wow, you've nailed it. I don't have anything to add. He's a really good player. Like,
yeah, he's a superstar.
It's a no-brainer.
Just quickly, I forgot off the top of the show which is very bad of me, before we get into our team preview, I forgot to mention our beautiful friends at Burnley Brewing. I was in there the other day picking up some beers, Richie. I've got some. I actually have to do a post out. I've got to send some to Western Australia, some to Queensland, some to South Australia for the boys. But yeah, thanks very much for all your support, Burnley Brewing. And Victoria out of lockdown now. The rest of the country's in lockdown, so suck it, all you smug buggers. Suck it. Yeah, all you laughed. I remember. Suck it. But yeah, we're out of lockdown, so the restaurants are starting to open up a little bit. So hopefully they get some business through the doors. Get down to 648 Bridge Road in Richmond and give them some support. Also, our Patreons, the Troy Aikman mini helmet and figurine will be going tomorrow, which is awesome. So I'll be doing that tomorrow, and we'll also be revealing next month's one. And spoiler alert, it's not a mini helmet this time. It's a jersey. So very excited for that, to give away our first jersey. But that break will be going tomorrow. And thank you for all our patrons. If you want to be a patron, it's $10 a month. You get into a free break, not a free break. You get into a break that basically you have a chance to win a mini helmet, signed jersey. Hopefully we get to the point where we've got enough that we can start getting big full-size helmets and stuff like that, like these ones all behind me. You get a chance to win one of them a month. There's about, I think, 12 people signed up right now. So I've said if it gets to 20, I'll start doing 2 mini helmets. If it gets to 30, we'll start doing a full-size helmet. So people who are in there, get your friends to sign up. $10 a month. It's really not that much for a chance to win something really cool. You know, the Troy Aikman ones, it's worth over $200, the Troy Aikman helmet. So if you get that, you've made it back in spades, and you can sell it. You can keep it for your personal collection. You can do what you want. So it's a really good deal, I think. So yeah, links down below if you want to join in. If not, thank you for your support to everyone. And our current patrons, thank you very much. It goes an absolute long way to helping us out. Let's get into it, Richie. Team preview time starting. We normally start at the north. We go north, east, south, west. And I thought I don't want to do the north yet because I want to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. I want to give it a few weeks to catch up. I'm very intrigued by that storyline. So start in the AFC. And I guess the spot we can start is the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl losers last year, led by Andy Reid. They were 14-2 in the regular season. Added some really good players on offense. Joe Tooney, the guard from New England. Kyle Long comes out of replacement. He's also a guard and tackle. Center Austin Blythe. They traded for Orlando Brown, the outstanding tackle from the Baltimore Ravens. They also traded for Mike Hughes, former first-round pick cornerback from the Minnesota Vikings. They signed wide receiver Tajay Sharp, D tackle Duran Reed, and Richie. I asterisked it on our rundown. I'm sure you've seen Antonio Callaway. Does that name sound familiar?
No.
Cleveland Browns, Hard Knocks, Roach Boy. The boy that got caught smoking the weed, and he's talking to the coach. He goes, "Yeah, he caught me with a roach in my car." Do you don't remember?
I do not remember it. No,
he was a third-round pick that had massive issues in college. That basically, if he hadn't had these issues, he probably would have been the first-round sort of talent that fell in the draft. Obviously, burned out, for pun intended, burned out in Cleveland, and he's getting another chance at, one of the most loaded offenses in the NFL. But a couple of signings I really like. I know they overpaid for Joe Tooney. I understand that. They also traded a first-round pick for Orlando Brown, but on a team last year where the offensive line was bad, those two additions are awesome. And Duran Reed, the defensive tackle from the Seattle Seahawks, a really, really, really good interior defensive lineman. You pair him up with Chris Jones, that defensive line is going to be stacked. They did lose a few players. They lost running back Le'Veon Bell, cornerback Brashad Breeland, tackle Eric Fisher, guard Kelechi Asemele, center Daniel Kilgore, tackle Mitchell Schwartz, defensive end Alex Okafor, and wide receiver Sammy Watkins, absolutely loved by Corey. Key draft pieces I really like. They added Creed Humphrey in the second round, the center, I think out of Oklahoma. was talked about as the best center in the draft. He had some injury concerns coming into it, so he did fall a little bit. But I really like that pick. You can sit him. You could potentially start straight away, or you could sit him behind Austin Blythe, who they signed off the free agency for a year. I guess my first thing, Richie, is we talk about the offensive line. It's well documented what happened in the Super Bowl. He ran for more yards before passing than any player in the history of the NFL. It was 497 yards or something along those lines. Do you think the offensive line players they've bought in, because we all know Mitchell Schwartz was an outstanding right tackle. Eric Fisher was a good good left tackle, but they were injured for the Super Bowl. Have the guys they bought in, are they enough to fix this up and give Mahomes what he needs to be, the elite passer that he is?
Look, I think it probably will be. The rest of the talent around the Chiefs is massive. So bringing these guys in, plus, they obviously addressed some draft capital as well in the offensive line. I genuinely think it's all they need. And quite frankly, if they were facing a different defensive front in the Super Bowl and not Tampa, let's say they were going against Green Bay, I think that line probably would have been enough against that front. Yeah, it really was.
The best line in the league. The best.
The Tampa's defensive front, and it's the entire front. It's not just the D line. They absolutely hitting their straps, and I think there's some stats about the second half of the season and into the playoffs are the best defensive line and linebacker unit in the league. So, I think they got a bit unlucky. I know there was a lot of panic afterwards saying, it was all the line and all the rest of it. And, Mahomes certainly ran more yards behind the line than in front of it. But I think what they probably had, if it was healthy, probably would have been enough. Or, as I said, if they'd run into Green Bay, I really think it would have been enough. So these additions, I think, are going to be fine. Now, I still think the Chiefs are the best team in the league. And I'll be tipping them to go back to the Super Bowl.
It's a great point. You talk about the offensive line. They also get Devaney Tardif, who took the year off to go and work as a doctor, to help out with the COVID stuff. He's back at right guard. He's a really solid right guard, an above average starter. So you put, Orlando Brown at left tackle, who was outstanding last year. Joe Tooney at left guard, who's great. I said Austin Blythe or Humphrey, depending on who wins that battle there. Tardif, and then I know Remmers is the right tackle right now. I actually think if Kyle Long's healthy, I think he plays right tackle. That's where he was the best with the Bears. We'll have to see how it plays out. I think that's what ends up happening. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you've got Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. People forget how good Travis Kelce is. I think offensively they are going to be right up there again, and it's said you could almost put anyone you want out there at receiver as long as they're fast. Mahomes are going to make them look absolutely outstanding. My concern for these guys is on the back end of the defense, and it's not. Am I concerned that they're going to be a good team? No, I think they're going to win the division, and I think they're going to contend for a Super Bowl. But defensively, they are not great, and they lost players. Brashad Breeland was a good corner. Tyrann Mathieu is a really good player, but he's starting to get to the back end of his career. He potentially could start slowing down. He had knee injuries early in his career as well. That never helps, longevity in the NFL. Up front, they don't have a ton of pass rush capability. I do like Jones. I think he's a really, really, really good interior lineman, one of the best in the league. But after him, you've got Frank Clark, who's in a bit of trouble at the moment, got arrested the other day. I don't think he'll play football this year. I don't think he should play football this year because he's kind of showing how much of a Tyreek Hill he is, if you know what I mean. They're not strong at linebacker position. They've got a rookie linebacker, Bolton, who'll probably start there. Their corners are not great. So I guess the question there is, how good do they have to be to win a Super Bowl? I would think you'd want to be around the middle of the pack to win a Super Bowl and have to be able to generate some turnovers, which we all know that turnovers, as a Tampa fan, Richie, that they're generated from pressure. And I'm worried that the Chiefs don't have that.
And they're also fluky too. You can look year to year with turnover differential, and it's a crapshoot. Teams aren't consistently good at it. It's not a skill that you can get better at. It's sometimes you just have one of those years where the offense aren't giving any up, yet you're forcing a lot, and a lot of it can come down to luck too. You play against those teams who take more risks, or the schedule comes into it a lot as well. You certainly made a lot of valid points on the defense. I'm not particularly concerned, I guess, when it comes to the Chiefs. Doesn't worry me.
I'm not concerned with the regular season. If you were talking of a team like they're going to be up there for a Super Bowl contender again, which they will be, that's where the little things start to affect you. You know, what if they get a Tampa Bay in the playoffs again, in the Super Bowl again, that can kick their ass, you know, that can push them around up front and make Mahomes work? That's when, okay, all of a sudden your defense has got to hang in there. In the Super Bowl, the defense could not hang in there against Tampa Bay. Could not. And Tampa Bay are a very good offense, but they couldn't last, and they couldn't generate pressure on Brady, and it killed them. They got ran all over. That's my concern, and that's what could cost them again. Because right now we're into Mahomes' legacy now. He's won a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl MVP. He's won an MVP. He's kind of ticking all the boxes. What he needs to start doing now is, and what everyone's going to compare him to, is Brady. And unfortunately for him, last year dropped him a long way behind the 8 ball. He's going to have to win a lot of. I don't think he'll ever get that legacy. But, you know, what we don't want is an Aaron Rodgers situation where you win a Super Bowl early and then 15 years go by and you've never even been in another one because your team keeps letting the little pieces around you start to let you down. So that's my concern. How long have we said about Rodgers saying, oh, the defense sucks? That's why he keeps losing. That could easily be Mahomes' problem too. Yeah.
I mean, look, no one's ever going to catch Brady. I don't care what anyone says. No one's ever done that before, and no one's ever going to do it again. This is one of those records it's going to last forever. But also, like, winning Super Bowls is hard. But I think they're going to be in more positions and have more chances than most.
Yeah, I agree. I'm picking them to win. We won't do our divisions. Obviously, we'll predict them when we do our prediction show. But I think this is what I had. I think the Chiefs defense are the cream of the crop in the division and potentially the league. And I said with Mahomes, I struggle to see how they don't win the division. I can't see it. Even if one of these 3 teams we're going to talk about tonight, who I'm actually, I could sell you a story for how all of them get into the playoffs. I can't see any of them winning the division other than the Chiefs. They're too good. Yeah. They're too good a team.
Agreed.
Other than injuries, obviously. All injuries barred. Let's move on to one of the other teams, the Las Vegas Raiders. Bit of an interesting one. Coached by John Gruden. Went 8-8 last year. Some key additions for the offseason. They added running back Kenyon Drake for $9 million a year. I don't know why when you already have a star running back. But anyway, do what you got to do. Wide receiver John Brown, center Nick Martin, defensive end Yannick Ngakoue, defensive tackle Quinton Jefferson, defensive tackle Solomon Brown, cornerback Casey Hayward. They lost center Rodney Hudson, who they traded to Arizona. They traded Trent Brown, the tackle, to New England, and they traded Gabe Jackson, the guard, to Seattle. They lost Tyrell Williams in free agency and inside linebacker Raekwon McMillan, and surprising star last year for them, Nelson Aguilar, all in free agency. Looking at the draft, they absolutely reached in the first round for Alex Leatherwood, which is something we're going to discuss later. They got Trayvon Moehrig in the second round. A lot of people thought was the best safety in the draft. I believe he's a frog, isn't he, Richie? Moehrig? Or have I got that wrong?
No, he is. He's a frog.
Yes, I thought so. I guess
he was great value there.
Yeah, the second round pick was terrific, but I would argue that Alex Leatherwood probably would have been available after Trayvon Moehrig.
Probably.
I said, and
probably.
I don't know how other teams rate them, but from all the reports coming out is that everyone was just chuckling when they took Leatherwood. Now he might end up being okay. He's an Alabama product. They're kind of hit and miss, like most draft picks in that first and second round are hit and miss. But I just let's start. So let's start there. Let's talk about the drafting woes between Mayock and Gruden. They've been terrible with their early picks. They reach and then they fail to develop the players. And I can rattle off a few quite easily. John Abrams, first round pick. He's been injured, I know, but the bottom line is he's going into his third year and he has not made any sort of impact on that defense at all. And he was meant to be the best defensive player in the draft, again, that everyone kind of laughed at. Arnett, last year's first round pick. Again, no impact. You've got, where's the other one? You look at Cleveland Ferrell, third overall pick. Most people had him in the 20s, yet they take an edge rusher, third overall, and then you're left a year later having to sign Yannick Ngakoue because you don't have an edge rusher. No impact. Ruggs. I know everyone loved Ruggs' season last year, but it wasn't that good. it wasn't that productive. It's been really overhyped. He only had a grade of 54 on Pro Football Focus, so he wasn't great, and his numbers are about 450 yards. Like I know he missed a few games, but they're not good. And then Brandon Jacobs, yes, he was a good pick, but call me an asshole, but I just don't see that. I just don't think running backs have got any value in the first round. And if they end up being good, great. You should hope they're good because you've just wasted a pick on a running back. You better hope he's a really good running back if you take him in the first. And I guess the point is, how much time do these guys have? Because I know they signed a 10-year deal, but we're halfway through it now. We're 5 years into John Gruden. I don't think he's got as long as he's.
So 10-year deals, they got 3 more left. Quite frankly, this is not an organization that can be paying for something they're not actually getting. They can't afford to pay for 2 head coaches. This is one of the few teams in the NFL where the money is from the team, and that's it. This isn't like Stan Kroenke, who his business holdings are 10 times what his NFL team is worth. These are guys who their NFL team is everything. So they can't wait every time there's a new TV deal or something signed. It means more cash, which is what they need. The rumors that fly around here with players leaving and things like that, Law after his good year, because they're just not going to. They just don't have it. So to answer your question, they have at least 3 more years. At least. Yeah. I know they're halfway through isn't this the 5th year?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, there's 3 more after this, at least. Now, that's to answer your initial question. To the whole point you're making, these guys have sucked. Like, they clearly have a totally different way of how they evaluate talent to what most of the rest of the NFL do.
Yep.
Otherwise, why would they be picking these people? So they're clearly confident in their processes and their systems and how they go about it. Compared, as I said, to the rest of the NFL and how every mock person out there and how they do it or how they copy off other people, however it's done.
Yeah.
Wherever people start before they start doing evaluating, it's just not how the Raiders do it.
And again, it's all well and good to sit there and say, they have a different way of doing it. And great. Good on you. Do whichever way. Do it however you fucking want. But it better produce. And that right now, the players they are bringing in, you traded away Khalil Mack and you have bought in nothing from those picks. They were wasted. What you may as well have kept him. Now, I know there's rumors they couldn't afford him, all that sort of stuff. Again, I revert back to Robert Mays, who said, I find it hard to believe that a team that just got almost $250 million from a TV deal can't afford to pay Khalil Mack. It's a matter of, do they want to pay? That's a difference, because all their money is from the team. They can afford to do it. It's if they want to do it. And this is what you constantly see. The offensive line, they trade away. They pay for these guys 2 years ago. Trent Brown got the biggest contract in the history of right tackles. They signed Incognito, who's still there. Hudson's been one of the best centers in the league for the past 4 years. And they just trade him away for nothing to Arizona, just to clear money. And then they bring in Nick Martin, who, Nick Martin's brother's a really good player. Nick's not. He's not. He's shown that he's, at best, a good backup as a swing guard center. That's where he's suited in the NFL. He's now going to be your starting guy over one of the best centers in the NFL, and you want to have a team. We know what Gruden wants to do. He wants to run the ball, use play action to hit guys like Darren Waller, who's an outstanding tight end, one of the best tight ends in the NFL by far. It doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And the more I think about Oakland, the more I worry about them. And then you look at players they're bringing in from free agency. They're back end guys. They're back end of their deal guys. Kenyon Drake has just struck out in Arizona. He was terrible. He got traded there, had a couple of good games, got a big contract, and then was terrible. John Brown, I like. He's fast. He could have a Nelson Aguilar sort of season. Yannick Ngakoue really has done nothing since leaving the Jaguars. He has not been an elite pass rusher that's promised. He had one good game last year. He had 10 sacks. He had 5 in one game. So you tell me how good his season was. Quentin Jefferson, I don't mind. Solomon Brown, again, a first-round pick that everyone really liked in 49ers. But he got hurt and he struck out. Is he going to be good? And then Casey Hayward at corner. The guy's 31 years old. Richie, how many really good corners do you know once they get over 30 that are just really good?
Not many.
It drops right off. And that's the thing, that they're making these moves, and then all the pressure is falling onto Derek. Oh, there you go. Calm down, doggies. All the pressure is falling onto Derek Carr. And you talk about, everyone says, oh, they've got some good talent around them. Other than Darren Waller, I like the running back. I like Jacobs. He's fine, but he's a running back. You see that they don't really add that much to your win-loss record, whether you've got them or not. Look at the Giants. Hunter Renfrow, he's a nice little slot receiver, but he's a little slot receiver. The Cowboys had Cole Beasley for years. Were they winning Super Bowls? No. Does he make that big a difference at Buffalo? Not really. They could find someone else to give that production. So I guess my point being is that all the pressure's on Derek Carr now, which we've seen hasn't been good. Derek Carr doesn't handle pressure well. And they haven't got a lot of talent on defense. Unless these young players reach their potential really quick, I don't think the Oakland Raiders are trending in the right direction right now.
No, they're definitely going backwards. You make good points on all of these. I'm probably going to have them last in the division this year. I started looking at it, knowing we were previewing them today, and it really sounded like a bit of a fire sale or a reset, or call it what you will.
A mini reset.
They clearly decided, hey, we're not going to get it done with this team. We need to jettison the bad contracts. Or not bad contracts, sorry, expensive contracts. So it gives us more flexibility. And that's what they did. The great thing about trading a contract, you get to offload it. It's not like cutting somebody. Now, you still take a bit of a hit, but it's nowhere near what it would be if you cut them. So that's what it seems to me. It's a mini rebuild. I think they're going to try and do it in 2 years rather than a full, hey, we have to unfortunately start again. But that's what's happening here in the Raiders, and they're not going to be good this year.
Yeah, and I think they're putting pressure on Derek Carr this year, and then they're going to use him as the scapegoat. And if he doesn't have a good year, which I thought he played quite well last year, I really do. I think he's a good quarterback. He's definitely a top 15 quarterback, if you ask me. Gruden has issues with quarterbacks. He doesn't get great production out of quarterbacks. If you look through the history, like Rich Gannon had a great year when at the back end of his career. Like, he doesn't do a great job. Brad Johnson was his Super Bowl winning quarterback, who was a not glorified game manager. He was a straight up game manager. So my prediction on them, one of the hardest teams to predict this season. The pieces are possibly there if the young players develop and the new additions in free agency deliver on their high price names. Will be a tough division, but the Raiders are certainly in the mix to finish last, unfortunately. And I'm pretty heavy towards them.
Not many arguments here.
Let's move on to the LA Chargers, who I feel like I'm excited about every year. Their new coach, Brandon Staley, who's been the Rams defensive coordinator for the last couple of years, outstanding defense over there. They went 7-9 last year. They made some good additions with Corey Linsley, the center, Matt Fieler, the guard, Kyler Fackrell, the outside linebacker from the Giants, and then tight end Jared Cook is just continuing his world tour of the NFL, going to every team along the way to retirement. They lost Mike Pouncey to retirement, Dan Feeney, Boris Lamp of the guards at free agency, Hunter Henry left in free agency, Melvin Ingram left in free agency, who is not signed yet, so there's a potential he comes back. Middle linebacker Denzel Perryman, outside linebacker Nick Vigil, and cornerback Casey Hayward, who we just talked about joining the Raiders. In the draft, two guys I liked. Rashawn Slater, I thought he was an outstanding pick. I wanted the Cowboys to take him. They didn't, obviously, but I liked Rashawn Slater. I think he could be potentially one of the best tackles in the league in the draft. And in the second round, they took Asante Samuel Jr., the cornerback, and that's the name might sound familiar. His dad was an outstanding Pro Bowl and All-Pro corner for a long time in the NFL. I guess the first question I've got, Brandon Staley, defensive coordinator, he's got some decent pieces to work with if they remain healthy. I've got, another Derwin James. Can he finally stay healthy? And if he is healthy for the whole season, he is an absolute legitimate defensive player of the year chance. That's how good he is, but he struggled to stay healthy. But you look at the pieces on this defense, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, they've got like Murray, really good. Harris Jr., Chris Harris Jr., really good slot receiver, really good slot corner. They've got some pieces here, and I think if Staley, a lot of the time when a new defensive coordinator comes in, it's a fresh thing and the defenses play quite well, because let's be honest, defenses are more about hype sometimes than anything else and about feeling good. And if you can get a guy like Derwin James back, Joey Bosa's at his full flight, I think this defense could be good. They could be quite good.
I think it was a really interesting move they made. You don't see many defensive-minded head coaches in the NFL because it's not the trendy thing to do.
No.
But I think this is, as you said, it's an exciting time for Brandon Staley because I think he's got a lot of really good pieces, as you said, to work with. And defensive players, they'll be up and excited. They've got a new system and they know the head coach has his undivided attention. And then when you flick it to the offensive side, a lot of people would know they signed Joe Lombardi as their offensive coordinator, who's pretty much going to have full control over the offense because with a defensive-minded head coach, as an O coordinator, you pretty much have the keys to the car.
Yep.
It's a pretty nice car, and Lombardi, for those who don't know, he spent a lot of time at the Saints. He was an offensive assistant, then he was the QB coach. He'd have a couple of years as the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, but then he came back to the Saints, has been there for 4 more years, and has now a chance again to go out. Now, he went to the Lions. I bet you he learned a lot being an offensive coordinator there for a couple of years. He obviously worked with a good QB, but not much talent around him other than that. So he's been around, in the Saints, he's been around a coach who's really good at exploiting matchups. I think more than anything, that's what we would say the Saints do, probably better than anybody.
Absolutely.
So he's been around that now for a long time. And I think it's going to be really exciting to see what he does with Herbert and the rest of this offense because there's some really nice pieces on that offense. As always, you and I get excited about the Chargers every year. And we probably will be again. We're both going to find a way to get them into the playoffs, I would suspect.
I think so.
But there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of really good pieces on both sides of the ball, and they have new coach excitement as well on both sides of the ball. So you got the offense learning new system, you got D learning new system. I think it could be a really exciting year for them. And as you said, the pieces that they've brought in are really, really good ones. Their losses I don't think are that bad versus what they've brought in. I think they're in the positive territory rather than negative territory.
Yeah, absolutely. And I looked at I looked at their offensive line as I always do, Rich. You get Brian Beluga back from injury, and he's a really, really solid right tackle. Corey Linsley they bring over from Green Bay, where he played with Brian Beluga. He was the best center in the league last year. He was up there with Rodney Hudson. Feeler's an upgrade at the guard position. He's not going to be outstanding, but he's solid. And then you bring Slater in, and he plays that left tackle spot. And then you just look at the receiving. Allen is one of the best receivers in the NFL. He gets completely overlooked all the time, Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
They bring in Jared Cook, who you talked about, New Orleans. He's been there the last couple of years in New Orleans. He knows Lombardi's systems. They got Mike Williams, who's a first-round pick, extremely talented. Tyrell Johnson's great in the slot. And then you got Austin Eckler, who is a really, really, really good running back and versatile running back and can do a lot, can absolutely do a lot. So I like that offense. And then you put that all and you wrap it up and you give Justin Herbert. And I am the first to admit I was very wrong about Justin Herbert. I made a mistake. And he looked outstanding last year. DJ called him a generational talent. Let's see. But he certainly looked every bit of that talent last year. And you then look at the key pieces they've got on offense. I think if this offensive line's good, it's all going to be about Herbert. And we've seen second-year quarterbacks go really, really well, and we've seen second-year quarterbacks drop off. Look at Baker in his second year with a terrible system around him, didn't go well. But now he's fixed it up. So what's Lombardi going to give them? Is he going to give them that really good system where Herbert can flourish and be outstanding, or is he going to go the other way? It's a bit of a crapshoot, but I just think with how good Herbert was last year, I'm finding it really hard to believe that it goes poorly. I think he's only going to get better. I think the sky's the limit for Justin Herbert. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. I haven't looked at schedules or anything like that yet, and where they play. Where are their chief games in the schedule and all those sorts of things. you need to look at that, because if teams can get a bit of a run on early, if you get a couple of cheap wins early, it can really get your season rolling. But if you get a couple of tougher games front loaded, all of a sudden you're staring down the barrel at maybe 3-2, or worse, 2-3. You start to think, oh god, what's wrong with insert team here? And when you look, you're like, they've played 5 Pro Bowl quarterbacks so far. That's the problem. So I haven't even had a look at that sort of stuff yet. So
the other way, like the Carolina Panthers last year won 5 of their first 7 games. Everyone was like, oh my god, these guys, they're good. Like, they're not good. They're just playing really crappy teams. And they got found out down the street. Like, look at the Steelers. They went 11-0 with most people saying they're okay, but they're not that good. And you saw what happened to them down the stretch.
Well, and another reason why I was all over them last year, because it was laid out. It was like the yellow brick road. You could clearly see what was going to happen. And early in the year, Roethlisberger's fresh. Older QBs perform much better.
They got Baltimore with RG3 because Lamar had COVID, all that stuff. They went away.
The older, less experienced quarterbacks, they're better in the springtime because the weather's better and all these things. Just all that stuff. Brady. And here's the exception to every single rule there is. So you need to look at these sorts of things as well before you make final predictions and all that sort of stuff. So without having dug deep into that, I like where the Chargers are at. They're an exciting team, and I'm not sure what their over-under games win line is, but I'd expect we'll be seeing them in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll finish my prediction with the hit of Herbert in last season's draft. It has certainly accelerated the rebuild for the Chargers. They added great players on the O-line with Slater and Lindsley and have some great contributors in key positions on both sides of the ball. This team could be a surprise package under a new coach and an exciting young quarterback. I think that was actually one of my most well-written predictions, Richie. Well-written.
No, there it goes.
There it is. Yeah, everyone. Have a good old laugh about it. Let's go. Well-written. The Chargers are exciting. If nothing else, they're going to be exciting this season. I'm going to enjoy watching them. Let's go to the Denver Broncos. They went 5-11 last year under Vic Fangio. They added in free agency Ronald Darby, the corner, Kyle Fuller, the corner, Shamar Stephen from Minnesota, the defensive end, and they traded for Teddy Bridgewater, the quarterback. They lost AJ Boye, the cornerback, and traded away Isaac Yadam. And they lost defensive end Jarrell Casey and offensive tackle Jawan James, which has been talked about slightly with what happened in the draft. They got what a lot of people believe is the best corner in the draft in Patrick Surtain, cornerback, son of an absolute NFL superstar as well. They took Javonte Williams in the second round, the running back, where I like running backs going. And in the third, they got a bit of depth with Quinn Meinerz, the center guard. So I like that there. The question is, I think we've got to just go straight into it. Quarterback's the big issue here. Locke doesn't look like the guy anymore, and Bridgewater really has been average since his injury at Minnesota. He's been okay. He's been okay, and good on him. He's eking out a good career after a horrible injury. But are you relying on him? I don't know. It's such this is almost the biggest question mark in the league at the quarterback position in Denver.
I've been smashing Denver for years in our previews, and it's all because of the quarterback play. Like even last year, I think I was the only one who had him last, and it's because I don't trust who's under center. We can talk all day about that defense and how good it is, how much talent it is. Yeah, everybody is correct. Everyone who says that, you are absolutely correct. They're great. And then even people start talking about they're really good pieces on offense. And again, you're correct. There are some really good players. The receiving core's awesome.
Yep.
But who the hell's throwing it to them? These guys, I agree with you with Teddy Bridgewater. I'm really glad he's been able to eke out a career. Probably not the one he was expecting after the first couple of years in the league, but he's going to earn really good money across his career.
And some respect.
Absolutely. He did all the hard work to come back. So good on Teddy. But Teddy's not winning you a Super Bowl, and he's probably not getting you the playoffs either. And neither's Drew Lock or whoever the hell the other quarterback is. Yeah. So they're your They're the issues. Simple as that. The two guys run to center. I don't care who wins the matchup. My prediction's not going to be any different. I won't have them last. And I think they're going to win more games than they did last year. I think they won 5, so let's make it 7. They may be battling for the last playoff spot, but they're not going deep. They have to find a quarter. I don't know where the hell they're going to get it from, but if they keep winning games, they're not going to get these picks where you can go get one.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I honestly don't know what they're going to do.
You have to trade away.
They've been swinging. Yeah, they've been swinging and missing at quarterbacks since signing Peyton Manning as a free agent.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of, they've taken a lot of swings, and they've been lucky to hit a ground rule double.
Do you think, obviously they've got a lot of young talent. The offensive line looks good. It's going to be better, I think, than last year, if healthy. You've got Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Hamler, Noah Fant, Gordon. Do you think there's enough talent there for an average quarterback? So if they could get Teddy to play like he was in New Orleans that year, just solid, not turn the ball over a lot, not lose your games, but not win your games, just deliver the ball to these talented receivers. Do you think there's enough there to be a playoff team?
Yeah, I think there's enough to be a playoff team. I think at the moment with the AFC, it seems you need one extra win versus the NFC. Is there enough there to go? Oh, you can't go 8-8 anymore. How many games are in the schedule?
8-9. 8-9. You got to get.
Yeah, I think they can go 8. I think 8 wins will get you. It'll definitely get you on. I think it'll get to the last spot in the NFC. I don't know if it'll get to the last spot in the AFC.
Last year, 11 wins was the 7th spot with the Colts.
Yeah, well, there you go. But that's a division thing. It will be really interesting to see. They start now. I actually have gone and looked at the start of their schedule because I want to pull it up, because if they can get out of the gates quick, they got a chance. Now,
who they got?
Oh, there you go. There is some preseason scheduled in, but their regular season is they're set to start with the Rams. Then they got the Giants, Jags, Jets. So there's some very, very winnable games, and they could jump out of the gates fast, and we'll all be talking about either how Drew Lock has worked it out or Teddy Bridgewater was the answer. They're the two storylines that will come out if they jump out of the gates well and take care of business.
Trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I just don't think that's happening.
I think anyone has the capital to get Aaron Rodgers off Green Bay at all. Yeah.
And they play the NFC North this year. So they got, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, and our friends over at Cincinnati. That's hard. I reckon that division is going to be really good. So, they have to start well. Those easy games that are front loaded with the two New York teams and the Jags, if they get out, they could be okay. If they fall in a heap and get those wrong, it's a long road for the rest of the season. It really is with those other – having the North, the AFC North as their non-conference, that's really bad.
Yeah.
For the West teams, because besides them, that's the most competitive division with the most talent, I think, in the AFC. So, it's going to be some tough sledding for them. And as I said, I'm just so concerned about quarterback, and they finished the year with 3 divisional games. Yeah. So if they're in it, they're going to get a chance because of those divisional games at the end. But, it's.
I'm not backing them. I like their talent. I love their defensive talent. And, you just look at the defense. They've got 5 cornerbacks who could arguably be a number 1 corner at a lot of other teams. They're like Patrick
any other
Surtain.
Team, yeah.
Patrick Surtain will struggle to get on the field. Like Kyle Fuller's an outstanding corner. Ronald Darby's he's solid. I think that's where Surtain will probably slot in. Then you got Callahan. You got Kareem Jackson at safety. Justin Simmons is one of, if not the best safety in the NFL. And then let's not forget, you've got Bradley Chubb, who's an outstanding pass rusher, and just a little-known guy called Von Miller, who's going to come off the edge as well. Shelby, I've forgotten his last name. Shelby Harris is outstanding. This defense could be top 5.
I know. You know that.
If they're not, is it Vic Fangio last chance? Does his defense have to be dominant,
Well,
and then if you're not successful, it's the quarterback's fault, and you can move on and give him another chance? I think if this defense is average this year, I think he's gone.
Whoever assembles talent, whoever's in charge of player personnel or drafting or signing, whoever it is, they're great at everything except finding quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad I'm not a Denver fan. Like, it must be the worst just seeing all that talent there and just knowing if you had, I'm just trying to think of it, if you had Matt Ryan, you're probably winning 11 games, maybe 12. And Matt Ryan's not even that good.
You know what? Like, last year, if they had fucking Andy Dalton, they probably win 10 games.
They probably.
Honestly, that's how bad Drew Lock was last year. And he was hurt for a lot of the year too. They had Jared Dressel half the season, I'm pretty sure.
It must be so frustrating. Yeah, well, so frustrating.
My prediction for the Denver Broncos, they are loaded with defensive talent. They could be a top 5 defense that carries this team. If their quarterback can be solid and deliver the ball to the talented receiving group and use Gordon to control the clock, they could definitely be a wild card team. But I need to reiterate, and I think we've done it enough, Richie, that everything of this team, the quarterback is the biggest variable on this team more than any other team in the NFL. It's not even close.
Yeah, it's not even, you can't even talk about, a ceiling is this and a floor is this. I don't know where the ceiling is on this. I don't know where the floor is with these quarterbacks. Like, it's so hard.
I could sell you on a world where Teddy Bridgewater is the answer and he's solid as a rock and Judy's a superstar and Sutton comes back from injury and he's a gun and Noah Fant gets going and he's like Darren Waller 2.0 and he's just tearing up. Melvin Gordon's great because the offensive line's good again. And Teddy, all he has to do is just run the plays and run them well and everyone else makes the plays and they're a top 5 defense and they win 12 games. I can see that world, but the hardest part of that world to live in is the quarterback. And I just don't think Teddy's. I hope Teddy has got it. I would love nothing more than him to have a really good year and be like, a fringe Pro Bowler sort of guy, them to win 10 to 12 games, make the playoffs and have a run. I would love that for him, but I just don't think it's there. Yeah.
Look,
and it's why they're going after Rodgers and they're talking about it still. Whether they got the capital or not, time will tell. But
they got the capital. It's where they're prepared to give it up. It's all there. We've been talking about how talented they are in other places. But if you want Rodgers, you got to give some of that up. Yeah. Let's not forget, it's Aaron Rodgers. You got to give stuff up. Otherwise, Green Bay, there's no owner to get emotional there. The GM's just going to go, no.
There would have never been a trade as big as Aaron Rodgers. Like as the reigning MVP superstar quarterback.
Get traded. Yeah, it'd be crazy.
I don't think it's happening.
But I don't think it's happening. It's not happening.
I think it'll happen next offseason, if anything. I think Rodgers will play this year for Green Bay.
Do we want to give a rough 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, let's do a 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think it's going to be Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. Without digging too deep into it before we get to preview show, but that's where I am.
Once we check schedules and start marking wins, losses, it'll become clearer. But I 100% agree with you there. I think that the Broncos will be third. I think the Chargers will be second. I think the Chargers will really push for a wild card spot. I know we always do that, Rich. We have a soft spot for them. I just hope the injuries don't destroy them like they have every year. Let's give them one good year. But the bottom line is, and we've talked about it in the past, Rich, once you hit on that quarterback, the rebuild rapidly accelerates, and that's where the Chargers are right now. And that's why they've gone after guys like Lindsley. They've gone after the center and given him all the money because they know they're right there. That's why they re-signed Melvin Gordon, all those sorts of things. So
you got to do it while the QB is cheap because it's bloody hard to do when the QB is expensive.
And I can tell you,
possible, but it's hard to do.
I can't see my number one changing though in the Chiefs. I just think they're too good. Something would have to go horribly wrong and things that I don't like predicting, i.e. injuries, for me to say the Chiefs don't win it. That's the only way I can't see them winning.
And I don't think if you do, the way we do this, and we have fun. We're not getting paid to do this. But
you're not.
If you're predicting injuries to get your division winner right, what are you doing? Like, seriously. One thing's if you say, okay, maybe you got a quarterback who always has soft tissue injuries or has a concussion issue, something like that. That's one thing. But predicting like Mahomes is going to get injured and
Miss the year.
And miss the. It's ridiculous.
A horrible
Like,
world.
if
It's
you
like
generally
people
believe that, go
trades.
put your hard earned on it.
It's like people that mock draft trades. Like, how do you know
Yeah.
what they're going to trade? That
Yeah,
defeats the whole purpose of a mock draft, if you ask me. But anyway, that's enough of that. AFC West in the book. You will see us back every week from now on, guys. We're back in full flight. Me and Richie, probably some guests along the way.
2 preseason games to answer your question from earlier this year.
2 preseason, cool. I think that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good amount. 2 preseason, one extra regular season, which is said I'm all for more football. You're never
Love it.
You're never going to get an argument for me to if they go like want to go to 18 games. I'm never going to argue no. I'm sure the
If it means
players
you take, if I have to give up 2 preseason to get 1 extra regular, I'll do that trade again and get to 18 and scrap the preseason.
I think that's where they're going to go. I really do believe it. The players will think, well, they can start 2 weeks later into their off-season program because they don't have those preseason games soaking up the time. And then they just go straight in and they'll treat the first 4 games as kind of we're feeling it out a bit. We're trying players out. They'll extend the roster amount. They'll let you have like maybe 5 or 6 more guys on the roster. So those fringy guys that you're not sure about because you haven't seen them play a game yet, get them in. But let's be honest, they do all their evaluation. They have shared practices with other teams. They do all that sort of stuff. You get your evaluation. Every coach I've ever heard talk about preseason games, I said we've already decided our team before then. We've got our 50 or our 48. It's kind of just the next 3 or 4 guys we're worrying about. And let's be honest, do they really affect a season that much? I'm sorry, they just don't. So
we've all watched Hard Knocks.
Yeah,
we've all watched Hard Knocks with the guys who are around the edges. If they're around the edges, they got to float around on some expanded practice squads, which they're allowed to do now, and then they get their chance. An injury might do it or whatever it is, but if they're not sure of them going in, then they're there for a reason. It's camp reps.
Yeah, camp arms, camp bodies. That's all it is. And then special teamers. The only thing they're going to affect is special teams for most of them. So there's rare occasions, there's exceptions to the rule, but there's not many. Richie, thank you very much, mate. You're an absolute champion.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Burnley Brewing sponsoring. Thanks to all our patrons. Make sure you get on that Patreon if you want a chance to win. I'm doing the break tomorrow for the Troy Aikman signed mini helmet, which I can't wait to do. And that's about it. Richie, you're a champion. I'll speak to you next week.